Hello and welcome to another video from me, the History Tutor, and today we're looking at the Cold War, we're looking at the spy plane incident, and we'll also be developing our source skills for the AQA Conflict Tension exam. Well, thank you for joining me for this quick lesson. We're going to be, as I said, looking at mainly the AQA content for question 1 in the conflict tension exam, which is the question about whether a source is critical, or it could be about a source being supportive of an incident, and how do you know? So for this question we need to use a little bit of knowledge, and as the question is about the spy plane incident, we'll need to recap our knowledge in a moment, and then we'll be looking on to our source skills. So firstly, let's go to a quick quiz to check our knowledge. Quick quiz, 10 questions to revise your knowledge on the U-2 spy plane incident. So if you don't know your knowledge very well, then you've got my revision guide. Look back over the pages about the U-2 spy plane incident and also that era of the late 50s and early 60s to test your knowledge, particularly about spies and espionage and intrigue that developed in the Cold War. Then come back to this quick quiz and see what you can answer. Okay, if you're ready now, then pause and see if you can answer these questions. Then come back to me for the answers when you're ready. Okay, so you've got the answers. So here they are. So what was set up in 1936 to find communists in America? So that was called the House of Un-American Activities Committee, or HUAC. Name the two people who hunted for spies in America in the early 1950s. So you've got McCarthy, and that obviously brought about the phrase McCarthyism in the early 1950s, and then Hoover, who was the head of the FBI. What was a famous quote about Soviet spies in America? Well, they talked about Reds under the bed. Maybe there's a spy somewhere nearby. Question number 4. When did the USA develop a U-2 spy plane to start its spying? So 1956 is the answer then. What was special about these spy planes? Well, they could fly really high, well above where rockets and anti-aircraft guns could hit them, so 23,000 meters plus, and supposedly the cameras could get very, very detailed pictures, even a picture of words in a newspaper, supposedly. So what was the spy satellite that developed? So not only spy planes, but spy satellites, and that's called Discovery 14. Who was shot down May 1960 in his spy plane? Supposedly untouchable spy plane. Well, they weren't by 1960, so Gary Powers was shot down. And what did Khrushchev demand when he caught this spy plane? He wanted an apology from America for invading their territory. And how was Powers returned to America? Well, it was a spy exchange for Rudolf Abel. And then finally, name the summit ruined by the U-2 crisis, and that was the Paris Peace Summit. So that might give you some idea of impact. So as mentioned a moment ago, if you have this revision guide, you can be working through these questions in detail and completing the answers using the revision guides for revision through simple revision cards and practicing questions. I have many AQA revision guides available. Do have a look at the link for this video to find out more about them, and have a look at some of the pages on Amazon and order them from there. The Cold War one, this is one of the videos from the Cold War one you're doing now. So it has up to 15 exam questions explained like this, how to get top level answers for these, and it has all the revision notes you need to revise this successfully. So now back to the question. So in your revision guide, start preparing to answer this question. So source A is critical of the American U-2 spy plane. How do you know? 4 marks. So in your booklet, so label the source, label the provenance, start to add knowledge around the source, start to plan your answer. How would you answer this question in the exam? So pause me and start to develop your ideas. So here's my ideas. So firstly, it's obviously showing Eisenhower painting his U-2 spy plane, and it's supposed to look like a dove. You can see, like, if you look closely, there's a bird with a little olive branch of peace in its mouth. So this obviously suggests that Eisenhower is trying to pretend that his spy planes are peaceful and they're not threatening, they're not part of the Cold War. It's all fine. Okay. But obviously the knowledge you might want to use is the spy plane suggests the thaw is sort of coming to an end. There's tension developing, and they go to the Paris Peace Conference, and Khrushchev storms out because Eisenhower won't apologise. So tension is increasing, and that the thaw of the late 50s is coming to an end. The provenance at the bottom then, this is really important. Provenance in the source work, it can get you an extra couple of marks. So it's a Russian view, of course, so therefore it's going to be more critical of Eisenhower. It's trying to say he's lying and deceiving people by sort of turning his spy plane into a dove. So it's going to be obviously a critical view. Okay, so now we've planned our answer, we're ready to start answering the question. So you can see here it's 4 marks only. So we need to write one paragraph. We need to give a clear point that gives the meaning of the source, sort of links to it being critical of the spy plane, give a little bit of evidence from the source, then we can explain why all of this is a critical view with our knowledge, and then we can do a furthermore with either a little bit more knowledge or by referring to the provenance of the source. So let's give this a go. So firstly, write your opening sentence. So how is this a critical view? So source A is a critical view of the U-2 spy plane because, and give the meaning of the source. How is it showing a critical idea? So pause me and give this a go now. Okay, so here's my idea. So source A is a critical view of the U-2 spy plane because it suggests that the Americans were pretending to be peaceful when in fact they were illegally spying on Russia. Okay, so now we just need a sentence to back that up. So what knowledge could we give from the source then? So what does the source show? Just one sentence to back that up. So pause me and add some evidence from the source. So here's my idea. So for example, it shows President Eisenhower trying to disguise his U-2 spy plane as a dove of peace. Okay, so that backs up the deception. But now we want to get 3 and 4 marks. We want to get more marks and try and get full marks in the answer. So this is a critical view because, so can we give some knowledge of events to back this up now? So for instance, we could be talking about how the Americans got embarrassed when Gary Powers put on a TV screen, or how the Russians were upset that their land was being invaded. We could link to the Paris Peace Conference failing. We've got a number of bits of knowledge we could talk about. So choose your bit of knowledge and explain over 1 or 2 sentences now how this is a critical view. So pause me and give it a go. Right, so here's my idea. So then I've said this is a critical view because the spy plane had been used since 1955 to spy on the Russians and monitor their nuclear technology. In 1960, Gary Powers' spy plane was shot down and the Americans refused to apologise, and this ruined the Paris Peace Conference in 1960. Okay, so that's a nice bit of knowledge about how this is a bad thing, this spy plane. So now we could talk about the source is critical based on the provenance. So maybe one sentence of provenance to finish off the answer. Try and guarantee all those marks. So over to you. Pause me now and see if you can talk about the provenance of the source. You can flick back through the video or look at your source in your revision guide to do this. Okay, so here is my idea. So it's a critical view as it's from a Soviet perspective from May 1960. They believed the US was ruining the peace process known as the thaw, and they were lying to the Russians to try and keep the peace. Okay, so that should give 4 marks. Provenance at GCSE level doesn't need to be massively complicated. As long as we understand the viewpoint of the Russians, we should get a good amount of marks. Okay, well, I hope you found that useful. It's a little revision of the spy plane and sort of the espionage era, but also useful in terms of doing your 4-marker source skills for the AQA Conflict Tension exam. It's a nice little question 1 with 4 marks and should be a nice way to start the exam. Okay, well, look out for more of my videos. I shall see you soon. Bye bye for now.